This full moon in Aries is no ordinary lunation. It's a power packed cosmic call inviting you to deep dive into layers of healing. The intense energy at play offers pivotal moments to see how your personal healing fuels the evolution of relationships and supports the broader shifts of humanity. Relationships may reach a breaking point, but sometimes things need to fall apart in your life in order to evolve. Embracing the unknown is key. That's where the magic and possibility reside. As these themes converge, the guidance becomes clear. So join me as we crack the code on this intensely layered chart and uncover how to navigate these powerful, real time evolutionary shifts together. So this week's Astro is not letting up at all. If anything, the fire is hotting up as we move through a full moon Aries on the morning of October 17th. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, this full moon is a lot. And we're not gonna be out of this energy for quite a bit as we transition through Scorpio season. So buckle up, Buttercup, and let's crack the code on what it's trying to show us.
So not only do we have a full moon in the warrior fire sign of Aries, but it's positioned as part of a cardinal grand cross with the Sun, Pluto now forward moving in Capricorn, and Mars still in Cancer. Add that to an emo grand trine water, including Venus at the testing degree of Scorpio. And on top of that, yes, there's more. This grand trine has not only one, but two kites, one pointing to Pluto and the other to Uranus. Round it out with a mystic rectangle, and we have quite a spicy and intricate full moon story to discuss here.
Now, not gonna lie, this episode is not for the faint of heart. We have a lot of dense astro to cover. I'm going to do my best here to take these mega collective themes and boil them down to how they may represent in your life. But you're going to have to hang in there with me a bit to get there. When there are this many layers of themes, instructions, and guidance, we can break down the messages first and then see the overall guidance and how it applies to our own lives. So get comfortable, hang in there with me, and I promise you by the end of this episode, you will have some usable level of clarity and direction. It's really important to me that you understand the why here, because in this energy, I think holding on to the bigger picture rather than getting stuck in the tension of the moment is what can really help us keep hope and possibility alive and well.
So let's start with our moon at 24 Aries. Because it's a full moon, we already know it's in exact opposition to the Sun, which is of course at 24 Libra. The depth of this moon comes with that opposition, since this is the last lunation on the Aries-Libra nodal axis before it shifts in January. So being that it's a full moon, this represents the last phase of a culmination of this nodal story. As we've been talking about basically since I started this series, these are the themes of Aries, personal empowerment, and Libra, relationships, pursuits of justice, and harmony. And it's no surprise at all here that the moon is conjunct Chiron at 21 degrees Aries, too. It's juiced up energy, showing us how to find the balance between masculine and feminine energies, both within us and within society as a whole. We're going to see a lot of different themes in this chart, but the subplot to all of it is healing the divide between the masculine and feminine. We approach this first by individually clearing out the pain, shadow, and trauma patterns from our own masculine and feminine expressions within ourselves first. And that individual, Aries, healing, Chiron, supports coming together in partnership, Libra, with the bigger collective goal of working towards harmony, peace, and justice.
Now, I love how that's represented here in the aspect alignments. The twist here is that we have the feminine emo moon in the masculine sign of Aries, and we have the masculine identity driver of the sun in the feminine Venus ruled Libra. And they're both in the third decan of Venus degree, which is actually so sweet and purposeful here. It's like they're getting a taste and experimentation in each other's domain in order to learn and have newfound respect for each other. And although that has the potency to create a lot of spicy rage and love potential, and I definitely don't expect this moon to be quiet for many, the positioning is just so purposeful and in many ways just outright darling.
So we have that masculine sun getting a lesson on helping humanity identify more as peace-driven, diplomatic, beauty-seeking, art-loving beings. It's a reminder that balance requires our wholeness, which includes the needs of our heart. We're not just here to survive. The divide between those who have vision and want more out of life versus those who refuse to grow outside of the control systems and trusting in a greater other person or entity to save us is just so apparent and thick right now. And because it's the sun, it's literally shining its light and illuminating the moon. That big feminine full moon in Mars, ruled by warrior sign Aries, wants to show us how we can be empowered, passionate, and brave about our emotions. How being strong and courageous and facing what needs to be faced will ultimately lead us to more peace, love, and harmony.
This exact opposition is also a more stark reminder that balance actually requires both masculine and feminine energies to show up, consider each other, and actively participate. That's why it's so meaningful that they're in their opposite signs. Relationships are changing. It's happening whether or not you're on board. Marriage, even traditional dating dynamics, physical gender roles, partnerships as a whole are shifting. But they're not going away, rather, they're transforming and evolving. There is an absolutely clear divide between masculine and feminine here and right now. I mean, this energy is so apparent, it's even present in the US election. But if anything, this energy is showing us how much we need each other to be true to ourselves first, so we can come together in healthier, more empowered, and more loving ways. It's also showing us how we get to try things a little bit differently this time around, with Venus directing the show.
So that opposition is adding tension to our cardinal grand cross. Remember last week we talked about how cardinal signs set the agenda. This specific opposition is putting pressure on Pluto at 29 Capricorn opposed Mars 22 Cancer. So of course, all of this masculine-feminine balance and empowered leadership in support of harmony is there testing us on our 29-degree Pluto issues. Because finding this balance is absolutely essential for Pluto to excavate and rebuild Aquarius, the grand vision for humanity.
What a cool time to be alive. Not without conflict or drama, of course, but like, what would you say if someone was like, hey, want to go watch humanity rebuild its beliefs and break free from 2,000 years of unconsciousness and toxicity where they built their entire world on conflict, control, and ego? I'd be like, wow, count me in. I can't wait to see that transformation. It's about fucking time.
Because of course, all of this is intertwined with Pluto. Like, I know you're probably all sick of hearing me say Pluto this and Pluto that, but the charts don't lie. This shift is a very big deal, and it's happening with or without your permission. But if you can use these last few weeks to actively move the baggage out of the way, it's meant to shift our energy and open us up to possibility. I mean, do you really want to keep experiencing the same trauma loops over and over again? No one really wants that, but it can be really hard to shift our minds and bodies out of the patterns they use to keep themselves safe, yet also imprisoned. But remember, we're learning how to shift into the concept of possibility, that the unpredictable future can be like a million times better and more abundant than the past that kept us safe. That's the power of this energy. And speaking of power, we have Pluto opposed Mars in Cancer. So that's a little tricky too. Aside from the short romp in Leo before its retrograde, we have Mars essentially in his emo phase for the foreseeable future. And to add to the math here, he's at the Venus degree. So his opposition with Pluto as he navigates the emotional, self-care, nurturing, motherly ocean of Cancer is gently guided by the ideals of Venus.
And I really think that's another synchronistic foreshadow of what this energy is trying to teach us. The masculine warrior gets to go to war not on behalf of his ego, not without an agenda, but in brave protection of the feminine ideals of justice and harmony. Because the ultimate goal of Venus energy is peace. It's not war. So what happens to the warrior when the war is over? Does Mars just fall out of the sky? Of course not. But perhaps his evolution is a graduation from passionate fighter into fierce protector.
Anyway, from a purely mathematical evolutionary standpoint, this chart gives major premonition vibes about hope and possibility of what we can achieve if we work with this energy rather than fight it. But bringing it back into present, it's not the easiest task at hand. I think Mars in Cancer also has a level of humbleness to it, especially in its needing to take action around nurturing and self-care. I think right now masculine energy as a whole feels a bit of an abandonment wound from the feminine. I mean, We never had this type of ability to connect with people like we do now with the internet and such. But I don't know if there was ever a time in history where women in general were so collectively ick about masculine energy. It's everywhere to the point that it's breaking down the male ego, which might not be a bad thing. Now, I'm not going to name names, but you can see by the way that certain men in power are doubling down on misogyny and control of women overall. Like, it's not even a secret anymore. They're not closet, even trying to pretend.
Because the feminine energy is the vessel within which the soul can connect to this physical reality. That's a power that masculine energy cannot own. It's through that feminine gift that we're able to connect to the quantum field, to the source of our existence, to the depth of our emotions and the collective consciousness that allows us to co regulate with each other. It's a limitless source of creativity and energetic flow. But don't get me wrong, we need the masculine too. Just not to own us or control us, but rather to trust us and our agenda. Listen to our intuitive guidance. Fight for us. Protect the shit out of that ethereal connection that we have. Because isn't that worth protecting? Like, do we want to continue to fight on behalf of toxic ego pursuits of land and money and continue to damage the earth and create power divides? Or do we actually want to protect this energetic connection we have to limitless abundance? I know not everyone can see what physically isn't there yet, but it seems clear to me which one is better. So basically, Mars as it transits here, he's humbled. He's learning how to mother and care for himself, and the armor of his ego dissolves in the water of Cancer. The feminine emotional undertones of this, the warrior learns how to direct his energy towards self-care, but not out of selfishness, out of humbleness. As he cares for himself, he remembers the importance of feminine energy, the mother energy, while at the same time he gains the experience and insight to become empowered by compassion and empathy, especially when we demonstrate it towards ourselves. Vulnerability can still empower us. This is probably the underlying purpose of Mars's extra 3-month retrograde and then forward motion in Cancer. He's remembering that at his core, his real purpose is brave protector. He has to feel this in his own vulnerability and apply self-compassion to remember the importance of it.
So I know that was a lot and kind of a tangent. And honestly, I wasn't planning on going that deep into Mars, but sometimes a channeled message is aching to come out, and I feel like that's my best use of these charts. They speak to me in math and patterns, and then I read it and transmit these messages down to Earth. And then together we can see how to apply it to your life and chart. If this approach resonates with you and you'd like to learn more about how the current energy patterns are impacting your life experience, reach out to book a one-on-one session or any of my deeper chart analyses. I would be honored to channel the messages of astrology and help you work through their application in your life.
I'm also thinking of doing an added bonus episode, maybe next week, that describes how these themes and patterns of Mars and Venus can impact what you're looking for in a relationship and what you might expect from a partner based on where these planets are in your individual chart. If that's a code you'd be interested in cracking with me, comment below and reach out in other ways so I can keep that at the top of my to-do list.
Okay, so now that I went wildly on another tangent, remember that not only is the Grand Cross putting pressure on Mars, but it's also pointing us back towards Pluto as part of the kite. The point of a kite can guide us towards our evolutionary path, and the fact that it's Mars opposed Pluto indicates compassionate action as part of the story. So this kite is essentially telling us in real time that the work of Pluto 29 Capricorn is supported by the flow of the Grand Trine water featuring Mars in Cancer, Venus now at 29 Scorpio, and Neptune now down to 27 Pisces. So we spent a while on Mars, and I wasn't expecting that to come through on this chart. But I think it's really purposeful because of Venus being at the 29th degree of Scorpio. As we've discussed so many times, 29 is a testing degree. It's the last stop before a planet transitions into the next sign, and it wants to make sure that all of its lessons were received and are being integrated, so it does not go out quietly. Venus in Scorpio is about excavating our blocked or withheld or judged emotions and intuitions, with the ultimate Venusian goal of peace, harmony, balance, and justice. For a deeper look at that concept, one that's continually applicable to Pluto 29 Capricorn, but even more pronounced as part of this current kite configuration, definitely check out my last episode, The only way out is through.
Now, in my own healing work, I am deep in the thick of nervous system regulation and excavation of trapped emotions. I just had a bit of an epiphany about it, and I wanted to share it here in case it's useful for anyone else working through and facing your own trapped and repressed emotions. I've spent essentially like the last decade of my life on this inner work, so I'm more attuned than ever to my specific trauma patterns and all the ways that I personally partake in mental gymnastics in order to actually avoid just feeling my feelings. If you're an air sign, you can probably relate to this deeply, but pretty much anyone with a trauma background probably on some level does this too and avoids their feelings. And not necessarily by active conscious participation. I'd previously been approaching this from the angle of consciousness within the mind. And while that's valuable, I recently became more aware of the importance of our actual physical bodies in processing emotions. It can't be just done in the mind alone. I think this is something that the Earth energy of Capricorn really wants to bring to our awareness as we move into Pluto's era of frequency alignment and being.
So basically, when our nervous systems are still growing and developing, especially prenatally until around 7 years old, our experiences imprint the patterns that our nervous systems deem enough to keep us alive and safe. If you experience childhood, ancestral, or past life trauma that felt threatening to what might keep you safe and alive, your nervous system wires in programming to essentially block and avoid that. So as we get older, we demonize and avoid certain situations automatically if we feel they're unsafe in our own bodies to process those experiences.
So, what does this have to do with Venus at 29 Scorpio? Great question. In the work that I'm doing within myself, I realized how actually necessary it is to incorporate those emotions in a compassionate and loving way. By developing the skills to consciously self regulate my nervous system in real time, I'm actively creating a new safe space within my body to process emotions and triggers, therefore, not storing it nor fearing it. And let me just tell you, I was taught by the best of the best. I'm an actual experiential expert at compartmentalizing my difficult and painful feelings so that I don't have to feel them. I literally did it for years. But there was always a part of me, my strong intuitive voice, that knew the whole time and screamed at me from the inside out. And I basically told that part of myself to shut the fuck up. I was essentially willing to take that pain to the grave rather than subject myself to feeling it again. It put me immediately into fight, flight, or even just complete shutdown of my nervous system. But luckily for me, that wasn't the lesson this incarnation had in store for me. And collectively, it's probably not the lesson for you either. I'm from the Chiron and Taurus generation, and part of my healing is reaching for the highest quality of life. Frankly, I wasn't going to get there by stuffing my feelings in some sealed compartment within my body. And honestly, that caused a lot of inflammation, allergies, autoimmune issues, and even infertility. The body really does keep score every time you deny your truth. Anyway, I have learned that by facing these emotions and the parts of myself that I've hidden away, not only am I dealing with them, but I'm also incorporating them into building a safe container within my body to process future triggers and emotional waves.
And sorry to be long winded there, but I think this grand trine, as well as the minor grand trine that is, yes, still active in this chart, that's been there for over a month, it's all part of the deep subconscious healing being offered by Neptune. Just as Pluto is generational, Neptune isn't too shabby with 14 years to move through a sign. Because remember, Neptune is a big, heavy hitting outer planet too, and it's retrograde at the end of its transit through the entire zodiac wheel. So this isn't just your normal retrograde. It's fine-tuning a subconscious, transcendent level healing opportunity that is life and world changing. And Pisces isn't just any sign. It's the last sign. It's humanity's last stop with an individuated earthly body. That means these final lessons of Neptune are like 165 years in the making. So it's not just retrograding the last few degrees of a sign, it's retrograding the last few degrees of its entire orbit. Talk about completing a cycle.
So do not take this Neptune transit lightly. It'll continue to retrograde and then move forward, completing its initial movement from Pisces into Aries in March of 2025. It'll again retrograde back into Pisces before its final transition to Aries in 2026. because these subconscious healing lessons and development of coping skills are absolutely essential for humanity's evolution on the grander scale. Because if you think I'm making a big deal about Pluto, and I definitely am, just wait until Neptune shifts into Aries. We'll talk about that more when the time comes. But just realize that all of these trines and oppositions and challenges are really setting us up and helping us integrate some absolutely incredible shifts in our planetary evolution. I know it's hard right now, and sometimes things can look bleak as fuck and seem even hopeless. But please don't give up now. We are really living through some of the most unprecedented times yet, but it's building towards a transcendence and embodiment that we can't even begin to fathom, imagine, or conceptualize yet. So, really, hang in there because hope and possibility are always alive. And we get to live through this incredibly dynamic time as the consciousness of our species literally evolves. And we get to take part in that. As hard as it is, what a freaking honor to be here right now.
So, again, focusing back on the Grand Trine, we can now put together the story a little bit more. Venus excavating our emotional blocks, Mars self caring our way through it, in flow with Neptune's evolution of our healing as a whole. We have that supporting the kite to Pluto and evolving our vision for humanity as a whole. Because we can't truly evolve the conscious healing of our species without expanding our vision. And here on the other side to help with that is a kite to Uranus at 26 Taurus. Taurus is all about high quality of life, and Uranus is all about providing the unexpected disruption that helps us transform and get there. The job of Uranus energy is to free us from our limitations, whether structured or perceived. As the ruler of Aquarius, although we've been talking about this transit since I've started the series, I think it's also trying to remind us that part of trusting in evolution is realizing that we cannot see and plan for the full transformation. If we knew it was coming, it wouldn't push us out of our comfort zones enough to make the changes we need to make to be on board with a vision we can't yet see. It's absolutely wild.
So I wasn't sure if I wanted to bring this up, and it's probably going to add a minute or two extra of content, but I think I'm feeling it because Jupiter's retrograde in Gemini. Since we're talking about the unknown and expanding our consciousness, I can't help but add another relevant story here.
So last week I came across an article about Elon Musk developing a robot that does household chores and supposedly can be programmed to do most tasks. I jokingly posted it on my social media saying, hey, if anyone's shopping early for me this holiday, this one's only like 30 grand. Now, before I dive into story time, I don't follow much about these people, but I'm not a particular fan of Elon Musk. So let's erase the fact that it's his robot from the conversation. That being said, I see something that says $30,000, I never have to waste my time doing tasks I absolutely hate, like laundry or organizing or dishes. Literally, I'm not even afraid to say this. I would cry tears of absolute bliss if I could never have to do mindless household tasks again. But then I think bigger. Hey, if I can program this thing like he's advertising, maybe I'll go back to corporate America, get a remote job, program this thing to do all the boring and uninspired parts of corporate culture. Then I can come in for the parts that actually require real human touch and creativity and my heartfelt passion. Seemed like a win-win for me to free myself up from both the homemaking tasks that I hate and don't resonate with me, and free myself from the asinine robotic parts of corporate jobs that don't require creativity or where my passions truly lie. To me, that's just the beginning of what vision looks like, because Pluto in Aquarius will involve utilizing technology. That's part of Aquarian energy. And Uranus, ruler of Aquarius, is moving into Gemini, ruler of thoughts, understanding, and intellect. So my bright idea is, wow, we can work smarter, not harder, and free ourselves up to do the things that truly bring us joy.
And I don't know if it's my age group or what, but it did not land. A majority of my personal social following was not for it at all. Elon Musk hate aside, a majority of the responses were scared of robots because of all the movies and media about tech and AI taking over one day, and with Elon involved, like, I get it. That was an expected response. And then there was the well-meaning friends trying to tell me that the robots were going to eliminate human jobs. But they framed it like that was a bad thing when I'm over here thinking kind of the opposite. Like, man, I would love to never have to work again. That sounds great. Sign me the fuck up. Because I'm absolutely done being gaslit by boomers and corporate America that work to survive is the way, and I should be grateful for my 1 hour a week that I get to do what I actually love. Mm-mm. Nope. It's wild to me that not wanting to work is framed as a bad thing. I think it's just misunderstood. It doesn't mean I want to sit home and do nothing and waste away. I have so many passions and hobbies and projects, just like this video. I want to help people evolve. I want to travel. I want to experience more of this abundant earth. I want to create more art and enjoy more concerts and music. Why are we so gaslit as a society that it's accepted that those passions should take a back seat to working for survival and keeping a house? Like, I don't understand why passion and what I'm good at are so devalued. It literally makes no sense to me because those are our actual purpose, those passions. Continue to keep an eye on me and this as a concept because I'm at the beginning stages of developing a brand new program that will address reconnecting people with their passions as part of a larger purpose driven project. Stay tuned and definitely subscribe to my content for updates on when that materializes. Now, to get to the point, I tell this story to help understand Pluto and Aquarian energy. In order to evolve, we have to operate from alignment with our vision, not with our fear, not with structure, and not even with hard work, not with what we know. We need to get stronger at developing our relationship with the discomfort of the unknown. Uranus and Taurus, unexpected energy to transform our quality of life. Our nervous systems are never going to feel comfortable with the unknown. It's just not how our bodies are designed. But the goal isn't to avoid the discomfort. It's to actively and consciously create safe spaces within our bodies to feel and regulate those emotions, and then actively feel it and move through it. The more we practice this nervous system elasticity, the easier it becomes, and the more we can grow and feel safe when in the face of change. Collectively, within our relationships, everywhere. If this makes you uncomfortable, good. It's right on time. It's the exact growth that's being asked of us now.
And how do I know this? Well, I just kind of explained all the math of it, but to really hammer it in, this chart offers us one more impactful aspect, embedding its message even deeper into the cosmic guidance. A mystic rectangle to balance Mars opposed Pluto, kite number 1, and Venus opposed Uranus, kite number 2. I've already reviewed those planets, so let's just look at the aspect as a whole. This mystic rectangle configuration brings both tension and harmonious opportunities for growth around personal empowerment, relationships, and how we express desires and emotions.
Okay, so like in English, I think here is that the guidance comes together and grounds more into usable, actionable instructions. Because remember, we're in a Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, so it's only fitting that the astrology expands information in ways we can't yet understand. And it's on us to review this information that we're receiving. I just got out of an absolutely beautiful session where the guidance reminded us to look within, to our intuition and to our nervous systems for real truths. Wonderful, beautiful. And if you're feeling like you need information and clarity on that from your own chart, definitely hit me up for a session. Because this is intense. Basically, we are here to align and be empowered by self-compassion from our authentic truths. Not knowing necessarily how it all works together, but still holding the overall note of healing and transformation. And that's not easy. So I think it's embedded deeply within the integration of this mystic rectangle that will help see what action steps we can take now, knowing in our hearts, minds, and souls that it's all part of a larger evolutionary shift.
In the first opposition of this rectangle, which also serves as the base and points of the kite, emotional Mars in Cancer is seeking to assert itself through nurturing, protecting, and defending emotional boundaries. It can be reactive when it feels threatened and it's motivated by the desire to protect safety. Pluto in the late Capricorn signifies the dying phase of a long cycle of societal structures, power dynamics, and control mechanisms. At 29 degrees, it's about finalizing lessons of authority, transformation, and the deconstruction of outdated institutions, both personally and collectively. This tension between these forces pushes us to get comfortable with regulating our emotions in real time. Why? Because Pluto, the collapse and transformation of antiquated toxic structure and power dynamics. Mars in Cancer can be protective but also prone to defensive reactions based on past emotional wounds. While Pluto in Capricorn demands that you face these emotional patterns, dig deep into the roots of your conditioning, and transform them. This opposition guides us to reclaim our power, and that won't come through emotional suppression, but rather by stepping into authentic leadership over our own lives, nervous systems, emotional needs, and beliefs. And it's all with the goal of expanding our consciousness, experiences, and evolving humanity as a whole. We are literally in the pain of the birth canal of our evolution. Meanwhile, we have Venus at 29 Scorpio ready to leave behind any superficial, toxic, or stagnant dynamics, seeking only the most honest, soul-level connections. But she has to wade through a lot of her own emotional baggage to get there and see it and bring light to it. Being aware of where she has not maintained boundaries and allowed misaligned energies in our lives. This is where the inequality and imbalance in relationship dynamics we spoke about at the beginning comes back into the equation. So that opposes Uranus retrograde in Taurus. This placement itself has its own struggles as the planet of unexpected transits the Earth sign that craves stability and comfort. Uranus is here to shake up those attachments and liberate us from anything keeping us stuck in low quality of life, whether it be our relationships with each other, ourselves, society, jobs, religion, government, etc. With all of those heavy aspects, it's all up for transformation.
But remember, in this dynamic, there is also so much support. The point of a mystic rectangle isn't just balance, it's also integration. Having the future forward lessons replace our old innate patterns and becoming our new way of being. Because it's the frequency of being that manifests our reality in Aquarius. We're overhauling anything in the way of that. So you might as well get on board.
And to name some of the support structures, we have a trine between Mars and Venus. So although there's relationship shakeups and lots of moving parts here, masculine and feminine are ultimately working together on this, supporting and, dare I say, celebrating the emotional work that's being done. Although each is deeply facing the lessons of their own transits as they aspect the big outer planets, it's all in support of the larger picture story of the Aries-Libra nodal axis and the same opposition that the Sun and Moon are at during this full moon, which of course circles us right back to the full moon Aries opposed Sun in Libra. As a whole, this opposition reflects the evolutionary challenges of self-expression of identity versus how we relate to others in pursuit of balance and peace in relationships. Now, if you've been trying to not face things, this moon might shine and highlight where you've been codependently people-pleasing to avoid conflict, or where you've suppressed your personal passions for the sake of relational peace and harmony.
So remember, at the end of the day, fairness and balance must include you. Because this moon is conjunct Chiron, the evolutionary goal here is to heal wounds that arise when you feel disempowered because your identity and needs are not being honored. And to find the balance between being authentically yourself while still maintaining healthy, balanced partnerships. Using your voice and expression are key here. So this moon could be explosive for some of you. And if that's you, it's probably been a long time coming. Hold on to hope that clearing the air will restore the balance. No matter what, partnerships that dissolve absolutely have to in order to evolve your quality of life. Grasping to control others is not the way forward, but focusing deeply and honestly on yourself is. And the relationships that move forward from that energy will be cleaner and create co-regulating safety for your nervous system to continue to express your truth and not go back into those old codependent patterns. Despite my yapping for the last 40 minutes or so, if you take anything from this episode, remember that no matter what happens, no matter how you feel about it, this is growth and evolution. Take it one step at a time. Start by compassionately eliminating actions, patterns, and potentially people that have kept you disempowered and perpetuating the cycle of inner emotional neglect and nervous system dysregulation. When our lives are filled with fear and trauma patterns, we don't have a lot of energy or room or capacity for expansion. And that's ultimately why we are here right now, facing what we're facing, fighting the good fight, and protecting our vessel in vulnerability. So be brave, breathe, and
let it flow, 'cause it won't stop.
thank you so much for joining me today and watching this episode and trusting my guidance. As part of my mission to follow my bliss and concurrently be of service to others, I'd love to help you crack the code of your own astrological chart and uncover the hidden guidance within it.
Whether you're interested in live readings, written analysis, or even personalized videos like this one tailored to your specific chart, I'm here to support your journey. Stay connected with me by subscribing here on YouTube and give me a follow on Instagram for regular cosmic insights and content. Plus, check out my website for some fun, customizable Astro merchant gifts to rep your unique astrological code. And remember, let it flow, because it won't stop.